with the advent of new and digital media, obviously affecting society and especially affecting children, as less print material is read and more digital content is becoming ubiquitous, so to speak. How do you see that challenge with bringing a new younger audience into play with a print form versus with what's happening sort of with the digital revolution that we see?
I don't know a lot about digital comics, but I know Corey does.
There's a lot of comics out there, and there's also several models that are trying to be the iTunes of comics. And I think it's great. I think that there's a lot of kids that, if you just go on the floor, you'll see, a quarter of the people with their iPhone or something, me included, Twittering or whatever. So there's an entire generation being raised on technology, and for them, it's completely natural to read entertainment, embrace entertainment electronically, no matter even if it's small. So there's a lot of, you can download comics on iTunes and back.
Part two of that, does that take away from the personal impact? Part of what we saw here was just holding in your hands, going through the pages. Do you think that's going to affect the medium?
Well, I think for people that have been reading comics for years, there is that tactile experience. But again, my belief is that it's a generational thing, and for kids that are growing up, for them, that's the equivalent. They are holding it. It's different.
As long as you can take a comic book into the bathroom, people will still read comics.
It's a lot of it is, there's a lot of nostalgia for kids. When you start, that's what's perfect. So as long as it gets there, it's the medium. It's still the art form that's being used.
The cost of the print media. Isn't it the cost of the print media that is, really the big stumbling block when you think of DVDs that can be, like I saw a thing about the dinosaur going up all the way to Cro-Magnon and all that on a series of DVDs. Now those were comic type genre, but it was in a DVD. I don't see how you're going to fight DVDs against this print on the cost of it.
I don't necessarily know the answer either. Advertising would be the first answer I would think of. Look, most comics have a circulation of less than 10,000 copies. There's no advertising money in that. So if I was to be able to, let's say, increase the audience 5 or 10-fold, now you got advertising dollars. However, advertising's going nuts. It's shifting. Nobody knows what's going on anymore. There's a lot of business models out there that aren't going to work. So I don't have all of those answers, but there's no reason a comic shouldn't be any different than, let's say, sliced cheese.
And we found when we did these man of the street interviews, where we showed people, we asked people, what movies do you like? What kind of books do you read? Stuff, and then we showed them comics. They were compelled. You think, it does seem like the general knowledge is that print is dying. But when we showed them this stuff, all of them reacted quite enthusiastically. So I think if it's shown to them and it's a good fit, you show them something that can appeal to them instead of just superheroes, then they're going to get excited about it.
Another thing that I find interesting that we never had the time to cover in this was the fact that the cost of comics from when they were 10 cents to now where they're usually $3 to $5 a piece just for regular newsstand comic books has gone up, 5,000%, while the money paid to the artists and writers that made the comic books in the 1940s may have been $10 to $15 a page for the complete thing, and now most of the I just did a comic book for DC Comics, a children's comic about the Super Friends. The Super Friends have been around for years. You'd think that lots of kids would be buying. I got paid $150 a page. Now that's not the same rate of escalating costs as it is for the newsstand. So I don't know who's pocketing the money or where it's going. But we sure aren't making it.
When we say digital, do we include the internet?
Yes.
And second, is could comics be potentially informative in education?
Yes. Yes. Nobody reads anything anymore. Teachers don't know how to get kids to read, so there's actually there's There's a group of people, I read about this in the New York Times a couple of years back, there's a group of people who are going around the country trying to introduce comics into the classroom. It's very ironic, because when I was a kid, I used to get in trouble if I had comics in the classroom. Now, they'll do anything to get kids to read. And quite frankly, if I had learned math and history through comics, I think I'd be a lot smarter right now. I don't know.
There's a lot of interest from teacher groups in graphic novels. Not so much the what some people call pamphlet comics, because they just get beat up too much from kids reading them. But I've been to actually a couple of conferences where librarians and teachers desperately want to get good quality graphic novels that are written for various age groups, so they can lure the kids into any kind of reading experience.
Okay, we got like 3 minutes left. Anybody else have anything out there in TV land?
So you're talking about the difference between movies and comics, and movies are ubiquitous. When you go into a movie store, you were saying when you show people a genre, like ask them what genre of film they like, you could find a comic that they would like. Why is it that by and large comic book stores group by publisher rather than by genre? Because it would be insane to go into a movie store and have the movies grouped by Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal. You would never do that.
Most comic books, well, the answer is really simple. Most comic book stores go by publisher rather than by genre, because most people who read comics have been doing it for 30 or 40 years. And most people who read comics read either Marvel or DC comics. They're following the legacy titles, and that's cool. You know, I grew up reading Spider-Man, that's fine, but most people don't get past that. To them, that's all comic books are. So, and you know, for retailers, that's the only guaranteed cash cow. So people are afraid to take risks and change the paradigm about how you market comics, how you put them out in the marketplace, how you get them to look at it. I was in Seattle a few years ago, and I was talking to the owner of a comic book store up there, a big one called Xanadu, and I said, I guess sales are down. He goes, no. I said, well, what do you do? He goes, well, we advertise in the book review section of the local paper. And when people show up, it's set up just like you said, like a bookstore. There's a humor section, a sci-fi section, a horror section, the adult section, whatever. People find it easier. They're making good dough. You got to think out of the box. Marvel and DC doesn't want to do that. They want to license movies. Well, that's cool. They made a lot of money. That's great. They can make more money, and they can keep their business going for the future. They're short-sighted chicken shits, and I'm gonna kick their ass, because they're gonna let a friggin' art form die, and I'm not gonna let them do it because because I'm their kryptonite. Thank you, and I hope to see you next year with a feature, and, and a little bit of, and again, he left the building, but I really want to thank Edward James Olmos for standing behind this. We're going to make this shit happen.
www.bigcomics.com. Find out more at bigcomics.com. Let us know.